shepherds heard the choir, there is hope for everyone. From afar, there is hope for everyone. We are waiting on the promise for the one who lights the darkness, bending low to be among us. Bring your glory in the highest, Jesus. Come, let us adore. There is hope for everyone on the manger floor. There is hope for everyone. What are you waiting for? There is hope for everyone. Come adore. There is hope for everyone. We are waiting on the promise for the one who lights the darkness, bending low to be among us. Bring your glory in the highest, Jesus. Coming on the clouds, there is hope for everyone. Hear the trumpet sound, there is hope for everyone. All of heaven shouts, there is hope for everyone. On the clouds, there is hope for everyone. 'Cause we are waiting on the promise for the one who lights the darkness, bending low to be among us. Bring your glory in the highest, Jesus. 'Cause we are waiting on the promise for the one who lights the darkness, bending low to be among us. Bring your glory in the highest, Jesus. All of heaven shouts, there is hope for everyone. Heaven shouts, there is hope for everyone. Heaven shouts, there is hope for everyone. Heaven shouts, there is hope for everyone.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Advent Sunday. Christmas is coming, and just in case you weren't aware. Well, it's great to be together this morning. My name is Derek. I'm the lead pastor here at Riverside, and I'm so glad we get to gather together. As you may have noticed, the order of service for the Advent season is going to be a little bit different, and this is a statement without judgment, just with fact. If you have found it difficult to get here for the beginning of service, just know you're going to miss out on some of what Advent has for us. As we do every year, have changed up the order of how the service works. And so we'd love for you to be a part of all of that, just so you're aware of what's going to be happening for the remainder of this Christmas season. I want to make good on something that I promised I was going to do a couple weeks ago. We just had the Christmas market, which I love. If you're at the opening of service, we got to see more shots of that and more reminders of that. And I said I was going to get a list of all the names of the core team that put together the Christmas market because they've done so much work. So I want to thank Michelle Dett, Shirley Baker, Bev Burns, and Cheryl Liggins for all of the work that they put into that. And we were already talking, a few of us this last week, about, man, is there something we can do in the spring? Because we've got a fall thing, we've got a winter thing, maybe we need to come up with a spring thing. Because these community events have become one of our most effective outreaches to the community around us, and they don't even know what's happening. You know, like we have a Christmas market, and we get to love on them and bring the light of Jesus to their lives, and they don't even know that that's going on. And so I love that about that it's this really low barrier way for us to bless the community around us, for us to engage with the community around us. And so we'll keep you posted on that. We'll see what we can come up with. On a personal note, I want to let you know, just for the sake of trivia, I went scuba diving for the first time in like 20 years yesterday. And I got into the water, which, just so you know, involved me putting on a dry suit that I bought when I was 17. To me, this feels like the equivalency of like when like a lady's able to say they put on a dress that they had from when they were like, much younger. And I was like, it wasn't the most flattering, look on me, but I got into it, thank you very much, and it got zipped up, and that was great, because I was helping my brother-in-law put a part on the bottom of his sailboat. So if you need help with your boat, Derek's Kind of Okay Boat Services company is open for business. And no, that's a joke. Please don't ask me. It was a very difficult, very cold process that I'm not looking to repeat a bunch of other times. So that's just free. We are here on the Advent Sunday of Hope. And hope is an amazing, powerful thing. I mean, hope is the type of thing that can take some unbearable situations and turn them into bearable ones. And similarly, you could be in a comfortable, season of life, but if you don't have any hope, it can take that and turn that into a season just full of doom and anxiety and fear. Hope is a powerful thing. In our household, we have a few things that have proven to be points of contention between me and my children. One of those things is a few years ago, we wanted to do the thing that, adults do for their children, which is teach them the joy of responsibility. Woo, everyone's most exciting thing. And so Amber and I, we talked about it. We were going to come up with a list of jobs that children would have around the house. Now, these are pretty simple jobs. One of them is that they would, once a week, vacuum up all the crumbs around the kitchen table because they are crumb factories. And that they would take the recycling down when the bin in the kitchen is full. That happens like maybe once, maybe twice a week. That's not a big job. But the most contentious one out of all of them is that they are now responsible for cleaning their rooms. Yes, this is true. And my parents aren't here this morning. They took my grandmother, who just had her 93rd birthday, to her church this morning. Yeah, good for her. And so I can say this, I'm going to have to apologize to my parents, because I remember when they would tell me to clean my room and just how angry I would get about that. Now I realize it was like a tiny section of the house I was responsible for, and I couldn't even manage that. Because with this job that we've assigned to our children, we have all the usual conversations, okay? A few times we found everything just under their bed. And Judah has a loft bed, so it's really obvious that he just shoved everything under his bed. You can see it, but he did it nonetheless. Had some more creative ones where they shoved it underneath the dresser, where they couldn't really get it back out again, but it was out of sight, so they felt like that was good. We had on the bed under the sheet, which is not a one that I remember doing. I thought that was creative. We had one where they just shoved it all in their dresser drawers with their clothes, and then shoved the drawers shut, and some of them got stuck, but it was clean and it was put away. I mean, they do everything they can to kind of circumnavigate the real responsibility of cleaning their room. We also have gone into a bit of a philosophical debate about their room. I have been informed that it is in fact their room, so it's none of my business how that room looks. We've also had the conversation around that to them it's clean, so just don't look at it and it won't bother me. We've had those conversations. But Amber and I have disagreed that that's the state. We do feel like our opinion is valid. And so we've continued to have this conflict. And so what ends up happening, Fridays is my Saturday, basically. And so I pick up and drop off the kids and do a bunch of stuff during the day to clean the house. And then when I pick them up after school, they come home and they're supposed to clean their rooms. Now, you would think I was asking them to, like, climb Mount Everest, right? Like, it's just like, this is an impossible task. There's no way we can do it. And I spent a lot of my time convincing them that they are strong, capable individuals. And if they got the toys out, they can put them back, just the usual parent conversation. But I discovered a magical tool that I can use to help them with this process. You see, what happened a couple weeks ago, this is another little bit of Sanderson lore for you. I'm currently building my children a treehouse, and which is way outside of my pay grade. So I've been calling people in the church that have done construction and asking them, like, is this okay? And they're really excited about the treehouse. So I regularly get questions about, is the treehouse done? And then I tell them, no, the treehouse isn't done. And then I get the immediate question of, why is it taking so long? And when will it be ready, and how many of my friends can I have in it? And so there's this regular conversation about this hope-filled future of a treehouse. And we were coming home, I went and picked them up, and what had happened during that day is I was saying, you know what, I want to start putting some real time into this to try and get it done soon. And so I worked on it all day. All day I'm out there working away on this, and I'm framing up some walls that will then be lifted in place to build the treehouse. But I wasn't able to quite finish up what I was doing. So I left the tools out, and I said, and I thought to myself, well, I'll come back, and then I'll clean up the tools when I get back, because I really do have to go and pick them up. So I go and pick them up when we come home, and then I'm about to go back outside to clean up, and I'm like, wait, maybe this is an opportunity. So I said, hey, kids, family meeting. I am about to go outside to clean up the tools, but there's a potential that I could spend more time working on the treehouse if you think you could handle the cleaning on your own. You'd have to, I wouldn't be here to supervise you. You just have to make sure your rooms are clean. And I need to know, like, this is a covenant we're entering into here. It's a treehouse covenant. I'll go outside and work on the treehouse if I can trust you to work on what's happening inside the house. And immediately, the unbearable, impossible task of cleaning the room was like, yes, of course, please go outside, go right now, go. And so I go outside, and I'm thinking to myself, this ends one of two ways, right? Either I come inside, and the rooms are all clean, and we get to have a big family hug, and everything is happy, or I go inside because I notice the house is on fire, and everything is chaos, and everything is ruined. And so I said, well, why don't we just take a chance? So I'm working away, and it starts to get a little bit dark because the sun goes down at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon now. And I tidy up, and I go inside, and I kind of quietly come up the stairs. I look in the rooms, and it is spotless. I mean, everything is put away. They're organized. Judah's like laid out all his stuffed animals from like smallest to largest. No one asked him to do that, but like everything is organized. Aaliyah's room is spotless. They have vacuumed not just around the table. There isn't a crumb in the house. They have vacuumed everywhere. The living room is tidy. And I come around the corner to our living room, and they're sitting on the couch helping each other with their homework. Hope is a powerful thing. And I think this is one of those things that nobody really argues about, nobody really debates. I mean, hope is a powerful thing. Emily Dickinson says, hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the heart and sings a song without words and without end. Martin Luther King Jr. says, we can put up with finite disappointment, but we must not give up infinite hope. I mean, there's countless quotes by countless people who have helped shape the world, helped to inspire generations, where they talk about the value of hope. Everyone seems to understand the value of hope. And yet, like so many other things, there's this confusion around how it actually works. I mean, what is hope? How do we hold on to hope? How do we make sure that our hope isn't taken from us? What's the gradient on hope? What's kind of okay hope, and what's the best hope? How is that supposed to work? And the thing about this is it's not just trivia. It's not just interesting. It's really, really important that we understand the difference between the hope that we have, the hope that we've celebrated this morning and will continue to celebrate, and the hope that the world is getting by with, and the difference between those two things. So we're going to turn to the Word this morning to take a look at just what is the hope that we have, and why does it make such a big difference. We're going to be in Isaiah. We're going to start in chapter 9. But before we do that, if you're new to Riverside, we take some time to remind ourselves of what it is we hold in our hands together. So you want to grab your Bible, your tablet, your phone, whatever you're reading the scriptures on, and lift it up with me and say this with me, please. This is my Bible. It is God speaking to me. I am who he says I am. I do what he says I can do. I have what he says I can have. I choose to open my heart to receive a word from God that changes my life forever. Amen. We're going to go to Isaiah chapter 9. We're going to start reading in verse 6. This is a piece of scripture that you are probably really familiar with. I mean, it's read at probably every Christmas Eve service in the world. It reads like this, starting in verse 6. For a child is born to us. A son is given to us. The government will rest on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His government and its peace will never end. He will rule with fairness and justice from the throne of his ancestor David for all eternity. The passionate commitment to the Lord of heaven's armies will make this happen. What a powerful promise of hope. And this is in the Old Testament. This is a messianic prophecy looking forward to the birth of Jesus, that God would come as a child, that the government would rest on his shoulders, that there would be everlasting peace, that there would be fairness and justice for all, as a tremendous, tremendous promise. But if we're not paying attention to what's going on, when this prophecy comes, we miss out on a part of what it is that we're actually promised. You see, Isaiah is an Old Testament prophet. And he is prophesying just before this a warning to Israel that they are about to be conquered. See, this is a regular rhythm in the history of Israel, if you're familiar with the Bible. Israel has this privilege of being the chosen people of God, that God has blessed them, has formed a covenant with them, that he's going to walk with them and protect them. And he leads them to the promised land, which is the best spot in the entire Middle Eastern area. It's in an area that historians refer to as the Fertile Crescent. I mean, it has the best farmland, the best resources. Everything is the best. And he moves Israel in. And then they start to go through this history, this pattern of ups and downs that they have, where it's typified by these few statements of the Bible where it says, this king did good in the eyes of the Lord and loved the law. And then it says, this king did evil in the eyes of the Lord. And Israel had been on a run of kings that did not do well in the eyes of the Lord. And it wasn't just the kings. The people of Israel had given up on worshiping the Lord. They'd given up on reading and following the law. Actually, at this point, I believe they've lost the book of the law. It's somewhere in storage, and they've since stacked other things on top of it. It's so far removed from their experience, from their life, and they're moving outside of their relationship with God. They've turned to the people around them. They've formed political relationships with countries around them. They've invested in infrastructure and in their military, and they've turned to worshiping the gods of the people around them, which to me is always like the craziest one out of all of them, because when they moved into the promised land, it wasn't empty. There was other people there, and God chased them all out. God defeated these people who were worshiping these other gods, and yet Israel starts to intermarry with the people from the area and starts to worship idols instead of the Almighty Father. And the relationship that's set up there is God says that if you are to listen to me, if you are to listen only to me, worship only me, then I will continue to bless you, and you will have my blessing. And that's not a threat so much as it is an explanation of what's going to happen. See, Israel had a choice. They always had a choice. They could follow God. He would show them the way to live, and they would benefit from living that way. And if they stayed in alignment with God, then he would bless them because they were turning their lives over to him. They were turning their kingdom over to God. But if they chose not God, he said, okay, go ahead, do that. And then if you're going to move outside of me, if you're going to try and do this with your own power, with your own resources, by worshiping these other gods, then you're just going to net what it is that those things get you, which is very, very different. And so Israel's been doing this, and Assyria is a growing nation. And Israel is watching them slowly begin to conquer everyone around them. All the neighbors of Assyria are slowly becoming part of Assyria. And Isaiah warns, and it's not a mystery. This isn't like Isaiah is saying something that no one else knew. Like, he warns them that Assyria is coming because, again, Israel was in the best place, and they had run out of relationships. Their military was not up to snuff. They didn't have it. At no point in time was Israel able to hold on to the promised land under their own strength. And so Isaiah says, Israel, be aware, Assyria is coming. And in this moment, they realize that they have nothing they can do. That there's no hope for them. There's nothing that's going to prevent Assyria from coming. And you know what? Spoiler alert, Assyria comes and they conquer Israel. They almost take over the entire thing. Jerusalem is the last spot that they don't manage to take over. And eventually down the road, King Hezekiah comes and he restores the word of the law. And he goes back to worshiping God and leads the nation in repentance. And then God delivers Judah from Assyria. But that's down the road. I mean, Assyria is coming, they're going to conquer, and they actually do conquer. And so this is what happens. And then there's this really interesting part where God speaks to Isaiah. And we're going to go back a bit to chapter 8. It's going to start in verse 11. So what is it that's supposed to happen in this space? He says, the Lord has given me a strong warning not to think like everyone else does. And now let's really pay attention to what he's about to say. He said, don't call everything a conspiracy like they do. And don't live in dread of what frightens them. Make the Lord of heaven's armies holy in your life. He is the one you should fear. He is the one that should make you tremble. He will keep you safe. But to Israel and Judah, he will be a stone that makes people stumble, a rock that makes them fall. And for the people of Jerusalem, he'll be a trap and a snare. Many will stumble and fall, never to rise again. They will be snared and captured. Preserve the teaching of God. Entrust his instructions to those who follow me. I will wait for the Lord who has turned away from the descendants of Jacob. I will put my hope in him. I and the children the Lord has given me serve as signs and warnings to Israel from the Lord of heaven's armies who dwells in his temple on Mount Zion. Someone may say to you, let's ask the mediums and those who consult the spirits of the dead with their whispering and muttering. They will tell us what to do. But shouldn't people ask God for guidance? Shouldn't the living seek guidance from the dead? Look to God's instruction and teachings. People who contradict his word are completely in the dark. Now, I really like this because it hits a little closer to home than I expect thousands of years old prophecy about ancient Israel facing the kingdom of Assyria than I thought it was. And what's happening? Well, Israel has realized that all of the things they put their hope in has already failed them. Their riches are not going to keep them safe. As a matter of fact, their riches is part of what's going to actually get them conquered. Assyria wants what they have. They want other wealth, so they're going to conquer them. Their military relationships are failing. I mean, all of the surrounding nations that they might have been able to partner up with have already been conquered or are on their way to getting conquered and probably don't want to poke the bear. Maybe if we don't fight with Israel, Assyria will leave us alone. And so, that's all falling apart. Their religion, the beliefs they've turned to, the idol worship is failing them. There's these things that they thought that they could put their trust and their hope in. They've made the right sacrifices. They've done the right things to these gods of the land, and yet nothing is helping them. And so what's happening is they are starting to panic. What you're reading here is the response of a panicked nation. The first thing they say is, don't think everything is a conspiracy. What's one of the markers of people panicking? They start looking for shadow cabals, groups of people. I mean, who's responsible for this? It must be someone other than me. It must be someone other than us. It must be some secret group working behind the scenes to make this all happen. And God's like, no, don't think everything is a conspiracy. I mean, the reason Israel is where they are is like the most plain thing in the world. They had a covenant. That's a double-ended promise. And they stopped following God. They stopped listening to him, and things are falling apart. And they're effectively going, well, who knows why we are where we are? Someone must have planned this nefariously to bring us down, and so they're looking for conspiracies. And then what's the other thing they're doing? Well, they're looking to mediums, to talk to the dead. Maybe if we can call up some of the dead to come and speak to us, to give us guidance, give us advice, then that will be our salvation. They're turning to more and more obscure beliefs, more and more religious practices from the fringe, because what we're doing right now isn't working for us, so we're just going to go a little bit deeper, a little bit further, a little bit into this new territory. Never mind the fact that I don't really understand what they want from consulting with the spirits of the dead. A, they've been dead probably for a while, which means that they're probably not much help with like advice for the current political climate. And B, a bunch of their ancestors they'd want to talk to were people that were following God. And so like their only response would be like, well, how's the worship going? Have you been making the sacrifice? No, it's just, I don't know what they think they're even going to get out of that. But they're panicking, they're scrambling, they're trying to find something to grab onto, something to hold on to, because they're figuring out that their hope is starting to fail. In 2008, there was a financial crisis that broke out. It was centered in the United States, but we felt it here as well. What had happened was the housing market collapsed, and then that brought on the collapse of the financial markets, and there was just people had lost pensions, they lost all their savings. I mean, it devastated family after family after family after family. But interestingly, there wasn't just a spike in like homelessness or bankruptcy. There was also an enormous spike in the amount of people that were either committing fraud or falling victim to scams. I mean, pyramid schemes took off, Ponzi schemes took off. There was a huge spike in people that were getting drawn in with the last little bit of resources that they had. They were getting drawn into these cons, these people telling them that this is the way it's going to be. Here, just trust me with what you have. There's a huge spike in that. So much so that there was started to be like national campaigns about like, maybe don't join that pyramid scheme. Maybe you're not going to change your life, selling that door to door. What was happening? What was happening was people that were normally rational, reasonable people were desperate. They were panicking. See, because these same people that were falling victim to these scams had been not scammed for all the time leading up to that. I mean, people were saying yes to things, yes to taking chances on things that they would normally have never said yes to, where they were so desperate to have something that was going to bring them hope because they had done the math. They had done the math, and they knew the bank was going to give them another loan. They knew they had to pay every month on their mortgage, and they knew what their bank account was, and the math was not going to work out. People lost their jobs. People knew that they couldn't just go into work and ask for a raise. I mean, the whole system was falling apart. The real estate market was always supposed to be up and to the right, and all of a sudden it was down, dramatically down, and things were just disintegrating. People that were on the cusp of retiring realized they had to spend another 20 years working. And so people were desperately trying to grab onto things, anything they could find. The modern version of believing in conspiracies and of turning to talk to the dead. People without hope do desperate things to try and find some way to claw that hope back. But what are we supposed to do? And I love in here where he says the advice that he gives to Isaiah. Preserve the teaching of God. Entrust his instructions to those who follow me. And he says, I will wait for the Lord who has turned away from the descendants of Jacob. I will put my hope in him. I will wait for the Lord. I will put my hope in him. And what is it that he is waiting for? Chapter 9, verse 1. Nevertheless, and I love this turning point in Isaiah's conversation here. Nevertheless, that time of darkness and despair will not go on forever. The land of Zebulun and Naphtali will be humbled, but there will be a time in the future when Galilee of the Gentiles, which lies along the road that runs between the Jordan and the sea, will be filled with glory. The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. For those who live in a land of deep darkness, a light will shine. You will enlarge the nation of Israel, and its people will rejoice. They will rejoice before you, as people rejoice at the harvest, and like warriors dividing the plunder. For you will break the yoke of their slavery and lift the heavy burden from their shoulders. You will break the oppressor's rod, just as you did when you destroyed the army of Midian. The boots of the warrior and the uniforms bloodstained by war will all be burned. They will be fuel for the fire. Now, there's some really important things about the foreshadowing that's going on here, because Isaiah is talking about something that is different from what anybody would have expected. He's saying the people who walk in darkness will see a great light. And then it comes down to verse 3. It says, you will enlarge the nation of Israel, and its people will rejoice. See, when the people of Israel read that, they would have thought, yes, they will expand the territory of Israel. You know, Israel will be finally, not only will we be restored to what we were before, but our influence will be expanded. The borders of Israel will get larger and larger. But we know that that's not what that verse is saying. God's not talking about giving Israel more control of more area. What he's talking about is he's going to expand the boundaries of the chosen people of God, the nation of God, to include all people. It's so far beyond what they expected, and yet it's also going to be deeply disappointing for a lot of people. I mean, the people in Jesus' time, and we talked about this, they expected the Messiah to be a military leader, a political leader, a king like David was king, you know. Were they saying songs about David? They sang about how good he was at killing people, okay? That's the kind of guy David was. That's what they expected, was another David, another guy like that. What they didn't expect was Jesus, who would come not to raise up Israel so that they could be the new Assyria, so that they can be the new Babylon. No. There was something much grander, much bigger than that going on, so far beyond just the idea of giving Israel more power, that the Israelites would be happier and the people around them would be more miserable. No, this is about expanding the borders to include everyone. It says, for you will break the yoke of their slavery, lift the burden from their shoulders. You will break the oppressor's rod, just as you did when you destroyed the army at Midian. The boots of the warrior and the uniforms bloodstained by war will be burned. They will be fuel for the fire. See, what Isaiah is pointing out is this is not going to be about a swap in military power. It's not that Israel is going to become like the major mighty nation. They're not going to become the ones to oppress the people around them. No. What's going to happen when this new king comes, when this new age comes, the hope that we're looking forward to, the thing that Isaiah is waiting for, where his hope is put, is in a kingdom that transcends all of that. See, when this kingdom comes, we're just going to burn the uniforms because we don't need them anymore. This isn't about becoming the new oppressors, because this was the exchange, right? All through history, all that's happened is one nation becomes the oppressor, and then they collapse, and then another nation becomes the oppressor, and then they collapse, so these people are happier, then they're sad, because these people are happier, and then they're sad, and then maybe these people are happy again. And it's just about moving that around, and you hope that you're the nation doing the oppressing, because it's either that or you are the oppressed. But the hope here, the thing that he looks forward to, the vision that God has given him is of the time when the uniforms are burned. Because it's no longer about who is oppressed for the sake of the people to prosper, but that we're going to move completely beyond that to an era where there is no war, to an era where there's no need for military uniforms. And then he comes down to say, again in verse 6, for a child is born to us. A son is given to us. The government will rest on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His government and its peace will never end. He will rule with fairness and justice from the throne of his ancestor David for all eternity. Why? Because the passionate commitment to the Lord of heaven's armies will make this happen. A hope that defies all human reasoning. It doesn't say, and then a mighty king will ride in on a horse with sword in the air. No, he says, a child will be born to us. Just a baby will be born, and that's going to change everything. That his government will never end. You know the turmoil that kingdoms and places go through with government changes? He's like, no, this is it. This is it. This is the last stop. Once he comes, it's over. He is the one in charge. He will rule forever with justice and mercy. And that's justice and mercy and fairness for all. See, this is the other thing, is that justice and fairness often feels like we need to choose between two people. If someone's going to have justice, then maybe someone has a little bit less justice. If we're going to be treating these people fairly, maybe these other people treat a little bit less fairly. And again, Isaiah is pointing to a time that comes with Jesus to say, every single person receives perfect justice. Every single person is treated fairly. Every single person. Oh, and by the way, it's never going to end. It is never, ever, ever going to end. That is the hope that we are called to trust in. See, Isaiah is not giving them, and sometimes in the Bible we have prophecies about don't worry, this judge is coming, and then he'll kick out the oppressors, and you guys will be okay. We'll put everything back the way it was. Isaiah is looking so far past this, and he casts like a ridiculous dream. I mean, Galilee of the Gentiles is an insult, okay? Like, that's not a good title in the eyes of an Israelite. That's like, oh, Galilee, yeah, that's a sketchy place. And you see that continues on. When someone talks about Jesus and they find out he's from Galilee, the line they say, it says, has anything good come out of Galilee? That's a local colloquialism. That's like a saying people would say just off the cuff, oh, Galilee, has anything good come from Galilee? And the answer is no. Why that spot? And honestly, we don't know, but I suspect it's just because God was like, okay, where in Israel is the least likely place someone would think that the ruler of everything would come from? Let's go to Galilee. The hope is so far beyond anything else that they've been promised. And it defies every set of expectations. Every set of expectations. It's a remarkable thing that Isaiah is calling them to. In the midst of their conflict with Assyria, he's speaking past that and beyond to the birth of Jesus, and then beyond that as well. And it's interesting to think about, okay, so the difference here is that the promises of the world, those can fail us, and the promises of God, the hope that we have in God is different. See, our hope is above all because the source of our hope is above all. Our hope is above all because the source of our hope comes from above all. Can we turn the lights off in the room, please? We talked about this before. This is scheduled. Don't panic. See, in my mind, we were going to be turning all the lights up, and I remember that we have the Christmas trees, and I don't want to run around unplugging Christmas trees. See, what ends up happening, though, is that we turned off all the lights in the room. All the lights have been turned off. That we end up with less light, right? All the lights are out, and they're all on the same switches. There's a little panel right there, and they can just turn them all off on command. It's really neat. I don't understand how any of it works. But all the lights come down. And when the room is dark, it's dark. We've turned off all the lights. It's like if we hit the circuit breaker to this room and all the Christmas trees went out, everything went out, that would be it. And if someone said, can you turn on a light? No. Well, what about that light? No, it's off too. What about that light? It's off. All the lights are off. The power to the room is turned off. All the lights are off. But you know what's not off? Is this right here. See, it would be easy to forget that this candle was lit when all the other lights are on. It kind of gets washed out in the glare of everything that's around us. But I tell you what, I bet you right now, everybody in this room can see this candle. And that's because this candle is not connected to what everything else was connected to. This candle isn't connected to the electricity in the room. If the power goes out and it's Advent, we'll have at least one light source, okay? And nobody will panic. I mean, we have emergency lights too, but that ruins the metaphor. The darker the room gets, the easier it is to see the things that aren't connected to everything else. This is the difference with the hope that we have. See, the problem is that when things get tough in the world, when the world gets more chaotic, when the world is diminished, everything in the world is diminished with it. We take hope in the fact that we'll never see another war. Well, there are wars right now. We're fortunate that they're not here, but wars are happening, and the threat of war is happening. Well, as long as we make smart investments and we do our savings, we read The Wealthy Barber and all of that, and we make the right calls, we put the right percentage in our RSPs, we sign up for the job with the pension, then our future is secure, our children's future is secure, everything is going to be okay. Well, that's until the financial market collapses and everything's not okay. As the lights get turned down, everything gets turned down with it. Well, at least our government. We can trust the government to make good decisions, right? The next leader, the next prime minister, the next president, the next whatever, the next anything, mayor, I don't know how close you want to get to home, but the next one, then that one, we can trust that they're going to restore everything. They're going to make everything better. But you know what? Tumultuous times very often do not bring the most steady, calm, wise leaders. Our leaders tend to reflect the time that we're in. So all of a sudden, the lights are going down the room, everything gets turned down with it. Interpersonal relationships. You know, I can count on my friends and my family. Hey, you know, when everyone loses their job, when everyone's under financial stress, you know what doesn't help a family gathering? Everyone being stressed out. Okay, family gatherings are contentious on their own. Family's difficult. We say around our house, family's funny, you know? And as stress goes up, those relationships get more stress, and all of a sudden it's not so easy to go to them. It's not so easy to turn to them. Friendships are the same thing. All of a sudden when stress goes up, the lights come down, everything in the world is diminished. The only thing that's not diminished is the thing that's not from this world. And that is the biggest difference in the hope that we have. We can turn the lights back on, please. See, the hope that we have comes from beyond. The hope that we have is singular because it has nothing to do with anything else. God is with us. Jesus came for us, not because we did the right things or because the political systems were right or because the financial systems were strong enough. No, God came just because he wanted to. He loves us just because he wants to. It's actually interesting. We've thought about for a long time, why is it that Jesus came when Jesus came? Right? And nobody really knows. The answer is probably in large part because God decided that's when he wanted to come. It was a real Bible college answer and nobody likes it, but most of the time that's actually true, okay? But you know what? One of the reasons why some scholars think that God may have chosen that timing is because Israel was conquered again. But they weren't just conquered by Assyria or Babylon, they were conquered by Rome, and Rome was a machine. I mean, Rome was swallowing up the known world at a record pace. And there was this saying that would say that Rome, the rule of Rome is never going to end. And everyone who had been conquered by Rome was like, you're probably right. I mean, because they were doing things that nobody else had done before. They had the road systems and the communication systems, and the military was just like mowing through everything. And to Israel, this tiny little nation that had been conquered and like conquered. And people were being executed all the time, and they were being taxed into oblivion, and there was nothing they could do about it. And in that moment, all the lights were getting turned down. All the power had gone out of the room. I mean, there was nothing they could turn to. Their own government that Israel had was a joke. Like the rulers of Israel that were Israeli were just like puppets. I mean, they knew there nothing they could turn to. And then into that space, a star appeared in the sky. And a baby was born. And the angels declared, your hope has arrived. You were waiting on the Lord, and he's answered. Why? Because he wanted to. Because he promised to. Because he was always going to. And nothing that happens on this earth has any bearing on that. See, the promise of God is as real as it is on a good day as it is on a bad. The promise of God is as good as it is in the moments of greatest prosperity and the moments of greatest depression and loneliness and exhaustion. The promises of God are static and steady. They're not based on anything in here because they're not from here. And I think that that's part of why God goes so far out of his way to just disappoint everyone. Right? He's from Galilee. Oh, man, if he was from anywhere else, this would be easier. He was born to a carpenter. Really? A carpenter? And actually, the rumor is he wasn't born to that carpenter. Mary was pregnant before they were even married. And it's just like all these things. Like it's like God was just coming up with new ways to make sure to defy everyone's expectations. Because it had to do with so much more than our expectations. It was a hope beyond hope. Israel was hoping to be set free, and instead, Jesus came and brought freedom to every single person. The nation of Israel was enlarged, not the way they thought it was going to, but it was enlarged to include every single person around the world. The fulfillment of all God's promises came in the form of a baby, and ultimately were manifest and fulfilled in the cross. Our hope is so far beyond any other source of hope. And it is the only one that will get you through life. It is the only one that is never going to change. It is the only one that is untouchable, indomitable in the face of everything else around us. And every single person is built to run off the hope that Jesus brings. And countless people around us are doing without. And it doesn't take much in order to see the fruit of that in the world around us as people panic as they scramble. I mean, again, in 2008, there was also a spike in conspiracy theories. People were talking about lizard people, like in half serious ways. I think it was whatever his face is that runs Facebook. Everybody thought he was like a robot or something. Like, it's just, there's crazy things. And it'd be easy to say, oh, that's just people saying crazy things. But it's a sign of the hopelessness the world is dealing with. We've tried everything, and nothing is working. And what the truth is, they haven't tried everything. They haven't met Jesus. Over this Christmas season, we have this amazing cultural opening in which we still celebrate Christmas here. Everyone celebrates Christmas. As a matter of fact, I feel like we're celebrating Christmas as a culture harder and harder every year. Like every park, every lake, everything now has Christmas lights going on. And you know what? Nobody knows why. Nobody understands why. What is all this for? Well, we just really like Christmas. No, that's not what this is for. We do like Christmas, but we like Christmas because it's the coming of Jesus to earth, the fulfillment of God's promises. That's what all these lights are for. It's the light of the world is here. We have this amazing opportunity to invite people in, this amazing opportunity to connect the things that they're experiencing, good and bad, the hopelessness of the world, and this brief moment in time for Christmas where we scramble to try and set that aside and experience the magic of Christmas. But the magic of Christmas, the one thing that's most special about Christmas is Jesus. So I want to encourage you. Some of us came here this morning feeling deeply and utterly hopeless. And I don't want to diminish that in any way. Right? It is hard sometimes when everything falls apart. It is fair to feel that mounting acidic anxiety that creeps in so easily. But I'm here to tell you that your hope is untouchable. No matter how much the lights get turned down, no matter if the power gets cut off, no matter what happens to everything else in the room, the candle will remain lit because the source of our hope is from outside of this world. I want to invite the worship team to come up on the stage, please. After we share in some worship and an opportunity for prayer, we're going to have our live hosts will come up and share about what's going on in the church. I want to encourage you to stick around for that. It's a Christmas season. There's a lot going on. But I want to take this moment in worship that we might have the opportunity to consciously set aside everything else. I mean, I've talked to so many people over the last few weeks that have told me I've done everything the right way and nothing is working and it all seems to be falling apart. I want to encourage you to remind yourself, maybe for the first time, find yourself in possession of the only hope that will not be diminished. I'm going to invite the prayer teams to come forward as well. And the other opportunity that I want to have is if you're one of those people that came this morning with a sense of hopelessness, if you're one of these people that came here this morning saying the math doesn't work, I don't know what's going to happen, I don't know how anything good is going to come from this, I want to encourage you to not leave here having not shared that with anyone. The Bible's really clear. We did this when we talked about community, that we're supposed to walk alongside each other, that we may be able to help pick each other up when we need to. If you want to come forward, these are lovely people. You know, all these people that we have in the prayer teams are lovely people. They're not intimidating. If you want to come to them and say, I just don't know how I'm going to make it through today, just come and say that. They'll pray with you, they'll hear you, they'll see you, and they'll help lift you up. If you have a hopeless situation in your life, I don't know what God is going to do with this, I don't know how this could ever end in any way other than just total destruction, I don't know what to do with this, I don't know what to do with that, I want to encourage you to come forward and receive prayer in partnership with other believers, and they might be able to help you experience bringing that hope of Jesus back into the center of your life. And collectively, let's all stand together. Collectively, we're going to take this moment. I'm going to pray that God would push everything else out of our minds and out of our hearts, and that we will allow the hope of Jesus, the child who's born, who defied all expectation, who transcends all our sources of hope, would take up the center of our lives. So Lord, I pray that as we worship you here this morning, you would work a miracle in our hearts, Lord. God, that it would not necessarily be a diminishment of the what's going on in our lives, Lord, that the reality of these situations will largely stay the same, but that there would be an elevation of you and hope that comes from you, Lord. that we remind ourselves that our hope is above all because it comes from above all. Pray that you would restore hope to our lives miraculously, divinely, because of your Son, Jesus. Let's participate in worship together.
I see you taking ground. I see you press ahead. Your power is dangerous to the enemy's camp. You still do miracles. You will do what you've said. For you're the same God now as you are. Let's go back to that. I see you taking ground. I see you taking ground. I see you press ahead. Your power is dangerous to the enemy's camp. 'Cause you still do miracles. You will do what you've said. For you're the same God now as you've always been. Your spirit breaking out, your kingdom moving in, your victory claims the ground that the enemy had. You still do miracles. You will do what you've said, for you're the same God now as you've always been. 'Cause that's the power of your name. Just a mention makes a way. Giants fall and strongholds break, and there is healing. That's the power that I claim. It's the same that rolled the grave. There's no power like the mighty name of Jesus. There's no power like the mighty name of Jesus.
Lord, I pray as we wrap up our time together, Lord, that your hope would take up deep root in our lives. That this candle we lit this morning will shine all the brighter for the darkness that we may be experiencing around us. That the purity of your love, the miraculous nature of your presence, God, would become more and more real to us, the harder that we have to lean on that, God. Lord, I pray that we be a people of deep, deep hope. They can put our hope and our trust in you, knowing that you will never fail. That nothing can ever diminish you, that nothing can ever subtract from you, because you are far above and beyond it all. And you're also with us. And we thank you for the hope that we're reminded of in this season. We may bring it with us to the rest of the world who desperately needs to find the hope that will never change. In Jesus' name, amen. Please take a seat. And we'll watch some announcements.